Insight. Quarterly Magazine. Issue 10. Oct-to-Dec 2018. Compiled by and editor Justin Phillips, Rajvi Mehta. Transcribed and printed by Mitra Jyothi. In collaboration with Radio Udaan. Subscription ₹100 yearly. Mitra Jyothi. CA Site No, P22, 31 St Main, 18th Cross. HSR Layout, Sector 1, behind NIFT College. Bangalore 560,102. Phone, 080-2258762 Email mj.tblibrary@gmail.com. Website www.mitrajyothi.org. Contents. From the editor. News from Radio Udaan. News from Mitra Jyothi. When athletes fall. A summer of defeat Rohit Priyuth. News from Out and About. Medical Council of India's new guidelines on admission of persons with specified disabilities. Unfair, discriminatory, and unlawful Satendra Singh. Nature of Mind Priya. Ram's profile Ram Shan. Project Management, in a nutshell Balaji Vardarajan. Making of Radio Udaan shows Divya Sharma. Vishnu Sahas Ranamam Ashik Mirwade. Kalakumalai Trekking Ashaji. Recipe Corner Green Chili Chutney Rajvi Mehta. To be a winner Mujtaba Merchant. One from the editor. Dear readers. The last 3 months that passed us by, saw plenty of sporting action. There was the Football World Cup in Russia, Wimbledon, Asian Games, and not to mention the 4-1 drubbing that England inflicted on India in cricket. The winners grabbed the limelight for sure. The losers, the forgotten ones however, hardly got a mention. Is there anything more difficult than that? Showing up day after day, week after week, sometimes for years, as your preparation slowly gains steam, as your team hits speed bumps, in spite of which, the news goes from bad to worse with one more defeat. Yet, they have to dust off their disappointments and restart preparation for the next event. Isn't the same thing true in our lives too? We started 2018 with a lot of promise. But as we reach the end of this year, most of us have very little to show for all the blood, sweat, and tears expended on various projects. Yet, we must march on, for it's moments of change, possibility, and trepidation that light us up. This edition of the Insight magazine tries to balance things out between the winners and losers, mind and mindset, climbing trails and waterfall, hobbies, profiles, and much more. Guess what? Even the gods Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva get a mention in various articles. May I take this opportunity to thank all the contributors who have enriched our lives with all the splendid articles, not only in this edition but also throughout this year. Looking forward to more contributions from all of you. Your contributions and comments are welcome at insighthide.editor@gmail.com. Happy reading. Justin Phillips. 2 News from Radio Udaan. Coverage of elections of leading organizations for the first time. Radio Udaan keeps an eye on the leading organizations of disabled community and covered the election of 2 main organizations for the blind, i.e. NAB India and NFB. One can listen to both, ruling party and opposition, on Radio Udaan's YouTube channel, Radio Udaan. As Radio Udaan is for all, everyone gets a chance to put their point and give clarification on any allegation put on them. Radio Udaan created history by continuously covering the elections of NFB, a leading organization for the blind persons. For the first time in its history, we covered the elections and did the show continuously for 11 hours and continued next day for 5 more hours. It would not be wrong to say that Radio Udaan is so majestic and exalted that everyone in the disabled community was looking for the app in their phones and had its name on their lips. Udaan Idol Little Champs. Radio Udaan gave the opportunity to disabled kids for the first time to showcase their talent and underwent a venture where disabled kids showed their musical flair on the channel, and the best 12 will get a real stage to perform during the National Convention of Radio Udaan, which will be on 2nd February 2019 in Mumbai. Short-term training programs. So as to promote technology among visually impaired persons, Radio Udon will soon be organizing short-term training programs in collaboration with NYEPT. These training programs will be on computers, iPhones, Android phones etc., and along with that we will also be giving lectures on right to education and POCSO Act. Radio Udon is well on track towards building a better inclusive society. Nishitale, Radio Udon. 3 News from Mitra Jyothi. Happenings at Mitra Jyothi during the quarter. Our 6 months career-centric computer training started for persons with vision impairment at Mitra Jyothi on 2 July 2018. As part of this 6 months long program, trainees will not only learn to use computers and become skilled users through screen reading software, they are also receiving orientation and mobility training, spoken English classes and personality development sessions. Another value add for this batch is, Mitra Jyothi is now a certified partner of NIIT Foundation. From this batch onwards, all the students who are undergoing computer training at Mitra Jyothi will get certified by both NIIT Foundation and Mitra Jyothi. As always during this quarter as well, we had students from couple of institutions for awareness. Few to name are Banjara Academy students who are undergoing counseling training program, St. John's 3rd year medical students and Vibgir kids. Around 80 kindergarten kids from Vibgir school visited Mitra Jyothi and learned about our programs. They interacted with Madhuji and our trainees in the Independent Living Skills program. It was a pleasure to answer their insightful and curious questions. They were introduced to Braille alphabets, numbers, and tactile printing. The Rotary Bangalore Abilities organized the Helen Keller Day celebrations in Mitra Jyothi on July 14. As part of it, most of the RBA members visited Mitra Jyothi on the same day. Mr. L. Subramani, President of RBA, was the chief guest, joined by honorable chief guests M.R. Karunya and M.R. Suresh Govda, followed by M.S. Madhusingal. There were 2 competitions organized to bring out the spirit of Helen Keller for the students at Mitra Jyothi. The first competition was a speech competition about Helen Keller, which was judged by Nagraj and Justin Philip, who are our old Mitra Jyothi beneficiaries. This competition showcased verbal abilities and confidence of the participants. The participants were very eager and enthusiastic, and their energy was so contagious that many more people spoke about Helen Keller even after the competition was over. The second grain sorting competition tested the dexterity and accuracy of the participants by asking them to segregate and sort through 4 different types of grains. Each participant had a unique way of sorting the grains, and the eye-catching performance was a delight for the viewers as well. Mitra Jyothi team arranged an awareness program by Akila Bharata Mahila Seva Samaha, UBMS, around cleft lip and palate treatment for the staff, volunteers, and students on 20th July 18. It was a very interactive session with various questions arising from the volunteers, students, and staff alike. There were many questions on the impact of cleft, side effects of surgery, preventive measures, and whether it has a different impact with relation to a visually impaired person. While the event was underway, one girl who is an ILS beneficiary of Mitra Jyothi was in fact undergoing cleft surgery at the Rangadore Memorial Hospital in Basavangudi with the support of UBMS team. A noteworthy event in this quarter is, Mitra Jyothi staffs were trained in mobility by our expert mobility trainer Ms. Sundarshwari. This gave lot of insights for the staffs, and now they are confident enough to support our beneficiaries on need basis. Around 9 students had undergone the Advanced Computer Training Center, ACTC, program during August and September. This program was driven by TCS, Methri team at Mitra Jyothi, and this was their 20th batch. Even campus interviews arranged for them by TCS as part of the program, couple of them cleared the interviews and waiting for their offers. Sri Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan once said, "Knowledge gives us power." Mitra Jyothi also believes in that and has been supporting and empowering thousands of visually impaired people since 1990. Students at Mitra Jyothi organized Teachers' Day celebration at Mitra Jyothi, HSR Layout Center, on September 5, 2018 to honor their teachers. As part of it, they had arranged few games for the teachers. Also showed their gratitude by gifting plants to all the teachers at Mitra Jyothi. Our trainer Chatra, a low-vision person, was honored by Lioness Club of Someshvarapura for her extraordinary contribution as a teacher as a token from their end towards Sri Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. Above all, there were two major programs happened at Mitra Jyothi. One is, Hickey movie was played with audio description. This was an initiative driven by Saksham, Delhi, and it was a collaborative effort to give the opportunity for the visually impaired community at Karnataka. There were around 100 plus audience and all enjoyed the picture a lot. Soon we are looking forward to play a Kannada move in similar line. Second one is, a matrimonial extravaganza was arranged at Mitra Jyothi in collaboration with Radio Udaan team during September. We believe that these sort of events can give opportunity for persons with disabilities, especially visually impaired, to network with other like-minded people, hence went ahead with the program. Overall, this was a wonderful quarter wherein Mitra Jyothi team got many opportunities to join hands with others and continue our good work through all possible means. For when athletes fall, a summer of defeat. Examining the complicated, revealing nature of defeat at once more personal, and more telling than victory. As summer recedes, it leaves in its wake the smell of defeat. We remember victory, but almost everyone loses. 31 of 32 World Cup football teams. 127 women of 128 at Wimbledon. Armies of the lost. Self-esteem is bruised, ego dented. Bags kicked, grass spat on. Heads under towels, on their knees. Drained, dazed. For a while a camera lingers on them, an unblinking voyeur peering at loss, and then it moves on. They're on their own, a forlorn statistic. As a writer, I like defeat because it's complicated and revealing. It's more naked than victory, more telling, more personal, more prickly. How much sport matters, you see clearest in loss. No one does suck it up, like athletes. They take pain and put it somewhere. They nail down rage to where you can't see it. They do it because they're practiced at it, because this is life, because they have to rise again, because they know we're taping and judging every reaction. Broken rackets are still news. There are versions of defeat. Grades. Degrees. Defeat by a little, by a distance, by a choke, by bad luck. At the 1988 year-end Masters, in the fifth set tiebreaker, the final point is a 37-shot rally which ends with a Boris Becker backhand hitting the net cord and the ball falling into Ivan Lendl's court. Said Lendl. I remember saying to myself, please, don't do that. But it did. Defeat is mean, like coming fourth at a games. The almost people. Nearly important. Bordering on relevant. Tracy Moffat, the Australian artist, did an exhibition called Fourth, comprising images from the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Most, she wrote, were of the acute moment when the athlete has just finished their final, turning or looking to see the outcome, and finding out the result that they came fourth. Most of the time the expression is expressionless, it's a set look, which crosses the human face. It's an awful, beautiful, knowing mask, which says oh shit. Abhinav Bindra knows this fourth place, and on the plane back from Rio, short of a medal by 0.1 of a point, what ifs ricochet around his brain like shrapnel. You can rewind a day, you can't replay it. Still, maybe defeat by nothing is better than lasting just too freaky, unjust seconds. At the 1996 Olympics in the 1,000 m time trial, where cyclists race alone, the world champion is Shane Kelly and his left foot slips out of the straps at the start and he's done. As he told the New York Times, "By the time I got my foot back in, 1 second, 2 seconds had passed. Too much time was gone. It's an Olympic dream shattered. 4 years are gone. The defeated have no set look. Resigned, edgy, weary or faces of shining defiance. They sit down in press conferences and twist open bottles and then look up. Go on then, ask me how I feel." Of course they don't always know, not so fast, because so far they've only yelled in dressing rooms or smashed a locker or wept with a parent or sat on the floor in a deflated silence. The loneliest people in an arena. Losing is obsessed over and sometimes shrugged off. Roger Federer sometimes flicks it off like lint from a fancy jacket that Anna Wintour gave him. After falling to Kevin Anderson in Wimbledon, he says, "Might take me a while to get over it. Might take me half an hour." Defeat elicits lovely quotes from raging men, like Jimmy Connors saying about Bjorn Borg, "I'll chase the son of a bitch to the ends of the earth." Defeat, on a weighing scale, is heavier than victory, or as Billy Bean's character in Moneyball, borrowing a philosophy from real-life athletes, says, "I hate losing. I hate it. I hate losing more than I even want to win." Losing turns fans into uncomfortable yogis, for they sit unmoving on sofas, unable to change an awkward position because that's the one they were sitting in when Rafael Nadal won his last 4 points, and to change it is to beckon defeat. Everyone knows that. But losing can warp watchers, for we will inflate defeat, exaggerate it, and when Lionel Messi has a few average cup matches, 10 years of trophies, moves, goals, magic are scrubbed away. Evidently he was never that good. Defeat is necessary, it makes winning fun, it allows us to give our children grave lectures about character, it leads to silent and spectacular self-abuse while sitting in puddles of sweat, it gives birth to experts, makes us appreciate commitment, teaches us to shake hands even as we swallow bile, and helps produce manly excuses. "The balls were too bouncy," said football manager Kenny Dalglish once. Of course. But defeat has become too grim, partly because we only want to win. The result sometimes obscures the contest. We sack football managers for nothing and make own goal luckless fellows like Morocco's Aziz Bouhatos apologize to their nations. But it wasn't a sin, only sport. Defeat is essential to any relationship with a team, it is about hanging in there, staying together, bitching, sulking and trying. Everyone wants to attach themselves to the winning team, to France and Barcelona, but I have a friend whose heart belongs to Blackburn Rovers, and her journey through defeat and wait for victory is wilder, more raw and more real. In his classic book, The Boys of Summer, Roger Kahn writes, "You may glory in a team triumphant, but you fall in love with a team in defeat. Losing after great striving is the story of man, who was born to sorrow, whose sweetest songs tell of saddest thoughts, and who, if he is a hero, does nothing in life as becomingly as leaving it. Losing is my memory of this summer. The stillness of players after a match of motion. Footballers kneeling on their haunches, standing with hands on hips, sucking in oxygen, looking into nothingness. Defeat empties the athlete. Then they try again. For all that we write about a spoiled, indulged generation, not always untrue, they did well this summer. Shook hands, embraced, comforted on the football field. Hugged, patted chests, tweeted respectfully at Wimbledon. Extraordinary players fell but stayed to sign for the ordinary fan. In a summer lost, it was a last victorious moment. Rohit Brayanath is an assistant sports editor at the Straits Times, Singapore, and a co-author of Abhinav Bindra's book, A Shot at History. My Obsessive Journey to Olympic Gold. Live Mint. 5 News from Out and About. A team led by an Indian origin scientist has developed an implantable sensor that runs on sugar, and can monitor the body's biological signals to detect, prevent, and diagnose diseases. The sensor, developed by Subhanshu Gupta, an assistant professor at the Washington University in the US, and colleagues, uses a biofuel cell and harvests glucose from body fluids to run. The sensor, described in IEEE Transactions of Circuits and Systems Journal, has a unique integration of the biofuel cell with electronics to process physiological and biochemical signals with high sensitivity. Many popular sensors for disease detection are either watches, which need to be recharged, or patches that are worn on the skin, which are superficial and can't be embedded, researchers said. The sensor developed by the team could also remove the need to prick a finger for testing of certain diseases, such as diabetes. The human body carries a lot of fuel in its bodily fluids through blood glucose or lactate around the skin and mouth, said Gupta. Using a biofuel cell opens the door to using the body as potential fuel, he said. The electronics in the sensor use state-of-the-art design and fabrication to consume only a few microwatts of power while being highly sensitive. Coupling these electronics with the biofuel cell makes it more efficient than traditional battery-powered devices, said Gupta. Since it relies on body glucose, the sensor's electronics can be powered indefinitely. So, for instance, the sensor could run on sugar produced just under the skin, researchers said. Unlike commonly used lithium-ion batteries, the biofuel cell is also completely non-toxic, making it more promising as an implant for people, he said. It is also more stable and sensitive than conventional biofuel cells. The researchers say their sensor could be manufactured cheaply through mass production, by leveraging economies of scale. While the sensors have been tested in the lab, the researchers are hoping to test and demonstrate them in blood capillaries, which will require regulatory approval. The researchers are also working on further improving and increasing the power output of their biofuel cell. This brings together the technology for making a biofuel cell with our sophisticated electronics. It is a very good marriage that could work for many future applications, said Gupta. Scientists, including one of Indian origin, have invented a polymer coating that acts as a spontaneous air cooler and can be applied like paint on rooftops, buildings, water tanks, vehicles, and even spacecraft. The researchers from Columbia University in the US used a solution-based phase inversion technique that gives the high-performance exterior passive daytime radiative cooling, PDRC, polymer a porous foam-like structure. PDRC is a phenomenon where a surface spontaneously cools by reflecting sunlight and radiating heat to the colder atmosphere. Developing practical PDRC designs has been challenging. Many recent design proposals are complex or costly, and cannot be widely implemented or applied on rooftops and buildings, which have different shapes and textures, said researchers, including Jyotirmoy Mandal, a doctoral student at Columbia University. Up to now, white paints, which are inexpensive and easy to apply, have been the benchmark for PDRC, they said. White paints, however, usually have pigments that absorb ultraviolet, UV, light, and do not reflect longer solar wavelengths very well, so their performance is only modest at best. The air voids in the new porous polymer, described in the journal Science, scatter and reflect sunlight, due to the difference in the refractive index between the air voids and the surrounding polymer. The polymer turns white and thus avoids solar heating, while its intrinsic emittance causes it to efficiently lose heat to the sky. The team built upon earlier work that demonstrated that simple plastics and polymers, including acrylic, silicone, and PET, are excellent heat radiators and could be used for PDRC. The challenges were how to get these normally transparent polymers to reflect sunlight without using silver mirrors as reflectors and how to make them easily deployable. The researchers decided to use phase inversion because it is a simple, solution-based method for making light-scattering air voids in polymers. Polymers and solvents are already used in paints, and the new method essentially replaces the pigments in white paint with air voids that reflect all wavelengths of sunlight, from UV to infrared. This simple but fundamental modification yields exceptional reflectance and thermal emittance that equal or surpass those of state-of-the-art PDRC designs, but with a convenience that is almost paint-like, said Mundell. The researchers found their polymer coating's high solar reflectance and high thermal emittance kept it significantly cooler than its environment under widely different skies, e.g., by 6 degrees Celsius in the warm, arid desert in Arizona and 3 degrees Celsius in the foggy, tropical environment of Bangladesh, said Yuen Yang, an assistant professor at Columbia. The fact that cooling is achieved in both desert and tropical climates, without any thermal protection or shielding, demonstrates the utility of our design wherever cooling is required, Yang said. The team also created colored polymer coatings with cooling capabilities by adding dyes. Achieving a superior balance between colors and cooling performance over current paints is one of the most important aspects of our work, said Nanfang Yu, an associate professor at Columbia. For exterior coatings, the choice of color is often subjective, and paint manufacturers have been trying to make colored coatings, like those for roofs, for decades, Yu said. At its Surface Hardware event recently, Microsoft announced a slew of new software tools aimed at soaking in more users for its Windows 10 platform. One of the interesting announcements surrounded the launch of an app mirroring feature for Android users. The feature will be available in Windows as an app called Your Phone and is aimed at allowing Android phone users view or use any app on their device from a Windows desktop, The Verge reported. Giving a peek into the feature, Microsoft wrote in a tweet, "Sometimes you can't stop for a text. Now you don't have to. Get your phone app and text right from your PC." Available now in the hashtag Windows 10 October 2018 update. Hashtag Microsoft event. Phone app will be available with the new Windows October 10th update and in its initial phase will allow Android stock texting and Photos app, and iPhone web page transfer. More support is expected later. World's oldest cheese found inside an ancient Egyptian tomb. Scientists claim to have discovered the world's oldest cheese inside an Egyptian tomb dating back over 3,000 years. Archaeologists from the University of Catania in Italy found broken jars inside the tomb of Thomas Mayer of Memphis in Egypt during the 13th century BC, which was initially unearthed in 1885. After being lost under drifting sands, the tomb was rediscovered in 2010, according to the study published in the journal Analytical Chemistry. One jar contained a solidified whitish mass, as well as canvas fabric that might have covered the jar or may have been used to preserve its contents. Enrico Greco, from the University of Catania, and colleagues from Cairo University in Egypt, analyzed the whitish substance to determine its identity. After dissolving the sample, the researchers purified its protein constituents and analyzed them with liquid chromatography and mass spectrometry. Liquid chromatography is a technique used to separate a sample into its individual parts, while as mass spectrometry measures the masses within a sample. The peptides detected by these techniques show the sample was a dairy product made from cow milk and sheep or goat milk. The characteristics of the canvas fabric, which indicate it was suitable for containing a solid rather than a liquid, and the absence of other specific markers, support the conclusion that the dairy product was a solid cheese, researchers said. Other peptides in the food sample suggest it was contaminated with Brucella melitensis, a bacterium that causes brucellosis, they said. This potentially deadly disease spreads from animals to people, typically from eating unpasteurized dairy products. If the preliminary analysis is confirmed, the sample would represent the earliest reported biomolecular evidence of the disease, researchers said. World's first hydrogen-powered trains are operational. Hydrogen fuel cells are a greener way to power vehicles. But they have also been cost-prohibitive. Today, though, that's starting to change. On Monday, German passengers boarded the world's first hydrogen-powered trains. Sure, buying a hydrogen train is somewhat more expensive than a diesel train, said Stefan Schrank, a project manager at locomotive company Alstom, which built the trains, in an interview with Agence France-Presse, but it is cheaper to run. The new trains transport passengers along 100 kilometers, 62 miles, of track and can travel up to 1,000 kilometers, 621 miles, on a single tank of hydrogen, reaching top speeds of 140 km/h, 87 miles per hour. Chemistry recap. Hydrogen fuel cells generate electricity by combining hydrogen with oxygen, and their only byproduct is water. That makes the cells a promising energy source that produces zero emissions and very little noise. Though they remain pricey, hydrogen fuel cells have advantages over batteries. Instead of recharging, for instance, you can just refuel them like you would a gas or diesel engine. And because train schedules are highly predictable, it's easier to build refueling infrastructure. New research is helping cut the cost of hydrogen, and the fuel source is already in use elsewhere in the world to power buses and cars. Trains are much heavier, though, so powering them with hydrogen instead of diesel could do much more to cut carbon emissions. If all goes well with these first two trains, Alstom hopes to add another 12 to its Lower Saxony fleet. So while they might be the world's first hydrogen-powered trains, they're unlikely to be the last. 6. Medical Council of India's new guidelines on admission of persons with specified disabilities, unfair, discriminatory, and unlawful. Introduction. India ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD, in 2007, which made it mandatory to harmonize all its existing legislations in line with its provisions. The result was the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, RPWD, Act, passed by Parliament in 2016 and implemented in 2017. The legislation moves from a charity approach to a rights-based approach and safeguards the human rights of people with disabilities. The number of disabilities listed have been increased from 7 to 21. The provisions of the said Act require that any person with benchmark disability, having a minimum of 40% of a specified disability, is entitled, as a matter of right, to avail all the benefits and accommodations enshrined in the Act, including 5% reservation in higher education. Accordingly, the Medical Council of India, MCI, informed candidates for postgraduate courses belonging to the disability category that persons with any of the 21 disabilities incorporated in the RPWD Act are considered as eligible in 2018. Armed with the progressive legislation and amendments in the MCI regulations, candidates with disabilities appeared for the National Eligibility Entrance Test, NEET-UG, to seek admission to the medical course under the disability quota. Out of the 110 students selected under the disability quota this year, the Directorate of Medical Education, Mumbai, declared 8 students ineligible, all of whom have learning disabilities. Similar incidents of candidates with dyslexia, hearing impairment, low vision, dwarfism, upper limb disability, hemophilia being denied admission were reported across the country. These decisions were based on the recent guidelines for admission of person with specified disabilities prepared by an expanded committee on disability constituted under the MCI. Candidates with low vision and dyslexia have already challenged it in the Supreme Court. What are the new MCI guidelines? Last year, a candidate with thalassemia knocked at the door of the Supreme Court and successfully got admission into the medical course under the disability quota. The MCI, earlier this year, communicated to all counseling authorities that all candidates with these 21 benchmark disabilities are eligible for the benefit of the disability quota in the medical course. Later, in pursuance of the communication from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, MOHFW, MCI submitted its new guidelines on June 5, 2018, which are yet to be ratified. As per the guidelines, despite having benchmark disabilities, candidates with specific learning disabilities, SPLD, visual impairment, hearing impairment, and autism are considered ineligible for the disability quota in the medical course. There is an upper cap of 60% for non-dominant upper limb disability and spine involvement, and 80% for disabilities arising from hematological and chronic neurological disorders, and lower limb disabilities. Why the MCI guidelines are unfair. 6 experts were chosen by MCI to frame Pan-India guidelines for 21 disabilities. All experts were from Delhi and 5 of them from a single institute. 4. pp. 7-8. Maharashtra, which was the first state to start providing accommodation to children with dyslexia, and many other states, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Goa, and Gujarat, who recognize and have experience with accommodating learning disabilities, were not represented. The lone member of the MCI committee responsible for setting guidelines for people with SPLD was a psychiatrist who did not recommend medical admission for applicants with dyslexia, stating lack of objective method/quantification of disability to establish presence and extent of mental illness, pp. 17-18. The expert further raised the concern that there will be foul play by parents to get fake disability certificates for their wards, and stated that demand for SLD and ASD certificate has grown out of proportion. However, he cited no reference in support of this claim. SPLD refers to a group of conditions, which encompass dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. The consensus statement of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics on SPLD in its definition part does not consider it as an intellectual disability. The commonest one, dyslexia, may be defined as a learning difficulty that specifically impairs a person's ability to read, despite having normal intelligence. Dyslexia interferes with processing, but it does not diminish intelligence, so it is unfair to compare it with mental illness. Yet, the MCI committee member who looked into this issue was a psychiatrist. There was no pediatrician or psychologist in this committee. The Department of Pediatrics, AIIMS, New Delhi, which worked extensively with the National Trust of the Government of India and organized training programs for doctors on the new autism scale last year, was not involved. Neither was there any involvement of pediatricians from Mumbai. Thus, the MCI did not adopt an interdisciplinary approach by involving those specialties that are usually entrusted with the diagnosis and care of individuals with SPLD. The claim by the MCI expert that dyslexia is overdiagnosed, 4. p. 18, has no merit, as only a few state governments, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Goa, and Gujarat, have even formally granted accommodations to people with SPLD. Last year, in Class 12, CBSE Board, only 840/10,19,360 students across the country were diagnosed as having dyslexia. This year the number was 901/11,06,771, 11. A minuscule 0.08%, in 2 successive years, cannot justify using the term overdiagnosis. Nor should it be the basis of the suggestion that this figure represents a rise in fake disability certificates. Considering quantification is not standardized currently for SPLD, so benchmark disability present or absent should be used as the criteria to tackle the problem of quantification till we develop better tools. The upper limit of 80% in case of locomotor disability, 4. pp. 9-11, does not assess individual functional capability. The guidelines should have provision for ability assessment. Arunima Sinha from India is the first woman amputee in the world to climb Mount Everest on a prosthetic limb, and Major D.P. Singh, another amputee, is India's first blade runner who runs marathons. Ted Rummel, an orthopedic surgeon in Missouri, acquired disability when a blood-filled cyst burst in his spine. Undeterred, he now operates from his modified wheelchair in the operation theatre. Mary Verghese set up the first rehabilitation department in India at CMC Vellore while in a wheelchair. YG Parameshvar is considered the second blind doctor in the world after Dr. David Hartman of the USA. He went on to do his MD in pharmacology and was appointed as faculty at the Bangalore Medical College, 12. Both he and Dr. Suresh Advani, a hematoncologist and wheelchair user, 80% disability, were awarded by the President of India. Similarly, there are multiple instances of doctors with disabilities with more than 80% locomotor disability working as faculty and residents in government institutions in the country. Also, the notification from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment on identification of posts suitable for persons with disabilities states that if a post is already held by a person with disability, it shall be deemed to have been identified. There are doctors with hearing impairment currently doing specialization in clinical branches, yet candidates with visual and hearing impairment were obliged to file cases in the court this year. Why the MCI guidelines are discriminatory? The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, MSJE, framed guidelines for evaluation and the procedure for certification of various specified disabilities. The guidelines were finalized by the MOHFW and were notified by the central government in the Gazette on January 4, 2018, 13. MSJE constituted an expert committee which further created 8 subcommittees. It is important to note here that there were separate subcommittees on developmental disorders and on mental illness in this nodal body. In spite of this, MCI relied on a psychiatrist alone to make sweeping comments on developmental disabilities, suggesting that they discriminate against people with learning disability. The MSJE committee had experts from different hospitals, from the Indian Council of Medical Research, and it included directors of national institutes working for people with disabilities under the central government, and the Director General of Health Services, DGHS. The DGHS is the final authority to decide upon cases where any controversy or doubt arises in the interpretation of the definitions or classifications or evaluation procedures regarding the said guidelines. Yet the DGHS was never consulted by the MCI. The MSJE assessment guidelines clearly state that for SPLD, the diagnosis will require a team approach involving a pediatrician and a clinical or rehabilitation psychologist. They identified neuropsychology battery by National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences as a diagnostic tool. For disability certification, the guidelines specified that the medical authority should comprise of 13. pp 94-95. A. The medical superintendent/chief medical officer/civil surgeon. B. Pediatrician or pediatric neurologist, where available. C. Clinical or rehabilitation psychologist. D. Occupational therapist or special educator or teacher trained for assessment of SPLD. Recognizing that SPLD is not a mental disorder, the recommended team does not include a psychiatrist. Yet, the MCI included a psychiatrist and excluded experts who are mandated by the central government to do this job. The assessment guidelines also clearly mention that no reassessment is required after 18 years of age and that this certificate will be valid lifelong. The basis for this decision is that the coping strategy of dyslexics and their learning patterns are usually established by the time they go to higher education, making reassessment at that stage a wasteful exercise. The MCI's insistence on re-evaluation smacks of discrimination. Why the MCI guidelines are unlawful. The Delhi High Court on July 31, 2018, granted relief to a hearing-impaired candidate, 14, who cleared the NEET examination but was denied admission as the MCI guidelines state that candidates with auditory disability are not eligible for admission into the medical course in the disability quota. The court, however, granted her permission upholding the principles of non-discrimination and equal opportunity enshrined in UNCRPT. The court observed that the MCI recommendation has not yet attained finality and is pending consideration before the MOHFW, and the amendment, in this behalf, has so far not been carried out in the relevant regulations. The MCI guidelines disentitling persons with specified benchmark disabilities are abhorrent to the principles enshrined in the Constitution of India and to the provisions of the RPWD Act. The court stressed that the RPWD Act came into being to give effect to the UNCRP provisions, to which India is a signatory. The preamble to the said Act does not permit for any deviation from the stated objective. While directing the petitioner to participate in the counseling under the disability quota and the concerned authority to reserve a seat in MBBS course for the current academic session. This is not the first such decision, as much before the enactment of RPWD Act, the Apex Court in India mentioned the doctrine of reasonable accommodation for the first time in a judgment while pulling up the Jammu and Kashmir High Court, which denied a person with cerebral palsy a school teacher's job as he could not hold a stick of chalk. The ground prepared was that the process of teaching is incomplete without the use of the blackboard. The Apex Court agreed that while a person having cerebral palsy may not be able to write on a blackboard, an electronic external aid could be provided which could eliminate the need for drawing a diagram, and the same could be substituted by a picture on a screen, which could be projected with minimum effort. The term reasonable accommodation has been officially defined under Section 2(y) of the RPWD Act 2016 as 2. Necessary and appropriate modification and adjustments, without imposing a disproportionate or undue burden in a particular case, to ensure to persons with disabilities the enjoyment or exercise of rights equally with others. In National Legal Services Authority vs Union of India and others in writ petition, Civil, number 400 of 2012, the Supreme Court said, 16. p. 93, in international human rights law, equality is found upon two complementary principles: non-discrimination and reasonable differentiation. The principle of non-discrimination seeks to ensure that all persons can equally enjoy and exercise all their rights and freedoms. Discrimination occurs due to arbitrary denial of opportunities for equal participation. Equality not only implies preventing discrimination but goes beyond in remedying discrimination against groups suffering systematic discrimination in society. In concrete terms, it means embracing the notion of positive rights, affirmative action, and reasonable accommodation. Doctors with disabilities do exist. In the landmark Jija Ghosh and ANR vs Union of India and Ors on judgment, the Apex Court stated. The very first sentence of the book No Pity, authored by Joseph P. Shapiro, reads: "Non-disabled Americans do not understand disabled ones." The only error in the aforesaid sentence is that it is attributed to Americans only, whereas the harsh reality is that this statement has universal application. The sentence should have read: "Non-disabled people do not understand disabled ones." One of the biggest flaws of both the MCI Committee and the MSJE Committee framing assessment guidelines is the exclusion of doctors with disabilities on the committees. We, the disabled people, are real-life experts on matters pertaining to disabilities. As I wrote in the Indian Express, policymakers and doctors without the lived experience of having a disability must not assume they know of our abilities or doubt our competencies. Where are the voices of doctors with disabilities? It was my 4-year battle with MOHFW which finally unlocked 1,674 posts for doctors with disabilities in the Central Health Services. These were not even reserved posts. Nevertheless, MSJE officials reported on their affidavit in the court that such posts are not suitable to be manned by people with disabilities. If the ceiling broke, it was because of my lived experience as a doctor with disability. Unfortunately, history has repeated itself as candidates with disabilities have been denied medical admission this year by MCI. The rights of people with disabilities are protected globally by legislations: the Americans with Disabilities Act, US, the Equality Act, UK, and the RPWD Act, India. There is literature available to counter the MCI prejudice. The majority of students with disabilities in medical education in the United States have invisible disabilities, ADHD, 33.7%, SPLD, 21.5%, psychological disability, 20%, deafness or being hard of hearing, 2.2%, in addition to visual, 3%, and mobility, 2%, disability, 21%. Similarly, in the UK, 10% of medical students from a medical school have reported SPLD, 22%. Willem Kolff, father of artificial organs and pioneer of hemodialysis, and Helen Taussig, founder of pediatric cardiology, both had dyslexia. Eleanor Walker, a dyspraxic medical student, and Sebastian Shaw, a doctor with dyslexia, are keeping the flag flying high by publishing the lived experiences of medical students with dyslexia in peer-reviewed journals. Reasonable accommodations for medical students with dyslexia. There is a need to foster a supportive environment, in which asking for help is not seen as weakness, and admittance of difficulty is not viewed as negativity. A doctor with dyslexia. I feel it is unethical to label candidates with disabilities under benchmark disability and offer no support. The majority of medical institutions in the country are not accessible to people with disabilities. Based on my case before the National Human Rights Commission, MCI amended the standard assessment form, thereby fixing the accountability of barrier-free campus onto the institution by putting this in the Dean's Declaration form. Diversity and inclusion are unfortunately still not on the agenda of medical educators in India. One very important role of curriculum designers is to generate products to fulfill the needs of students with a varying range of abilities, learning styles, and preferences. In this sense, the use of media in medical education should help teachers proactively plan for students with diverse characteristics, and institutions should include strategies for creating an inclusive curriculum and instructional methods. This can only be achieved through using universal design for learning. Universally designed presentations and handouts, replacing white backgrounds with pastel colors, using sans serif fonts, avoiding underlining titles, using flowcharts and concept maps, are recommended by doctors with dyslexia as inclusive practices. This will help color-blind students too. 3 UK studies have analyzed the impact of dyslexia on performance in different exam formats, 22, and they found that 25% extra time allows students with dyslexia to perform as well as other students. It is important to note that no accommodations were provided to candidates with SPLD in the NEET UG, yet many cracked this tough entrance examination. Section 21(2) of the RPWD Act mandates every establishment to frame an equal opportunity policy, and this is where such accommodations must be mentioned and fulfilled in letter and in spirit. Section 21 of the RPWD Act 2016 and Section 10 of the RPWD Rules 2017 mandates appointment of a grievance redressal officer in every establishment to circumvent deviations. MCI may please note that denial of reasonable accommodation has been defined as discrimination under Section 2(h) of the RPWD Act 2016, and therefore any person or establishment contravening the provisions of this Act can be subject to punishment under Section 89 and 92. A group of 75 doctors with disabilities have now written to the Health Minister to reject the discriminatory MCI guidelines and embrace diversity in medical education by adopting best global practices. The General Medical Council of the UK has come up with Gateways to the Profession, 2008, updated 2013, which is being revised currently into Welcomed and Valued, 2018, which advises medical educators on how students and doctors with disabilities can be provided with an enabling environment. Earlier in June, the Association of American Medical Colleges released a report on the lived experiences of learners and physicians with disabilities and how they enrich diversity. MCI, as per the needs of the RPWD Act and in consultation with doctors with disabilities, may start diversity and inclusion units in all medical institutions to provide reasonable accommodations. One notable gap in the literature is the lack of studies on the emotional impact of studying medicine with disability. In granting learners with disabilities accommodations, are we inadvertently doing harm by singling them out and leaving them vulnerable to discrimination? More work is needed in this area, especially from medical students and doctors with disabilities, provided that they are not stopped from pursuing medicine. Students with diverse learning needs must not be barred from entering the medical profession. They add diversity to our profession and we must be inclusive to their needs. The RPWD Act is a welfare legislation based on UNCRPT, the first human rights treaty in the 21st century with a record number of signatories. It is the duty of everyone to see that the principles of UNCRPT are respected and that the provisions of the RPWD Act are carried out. Postscript. The author led representation, under the banner Doctors with Disabilities, Agents of Change, was taken on record by the Health Ministry. It has been learned that the Health Ministry has amended certain controversial parts in the MCI guidelines acknowledging said representation in their response to the Apex Court. Satendra Singh. Published online. August 25, 2018. 7. Nature of Mind. Scholars and acolytes have discussed and debated about this subject for thousands of years, but still the nature of the human mind remains a deep mystery. It is very dear to me and I feel, learning to manage it effectively will make us a very strong yet calm person. By trying to understand and giving a little attention towards how our mind functions, we can definitely improve our quality of life in every aspect. Be it in our personal or professional life. Be it leading a harmonious life within ourselves, or in dealing with the world at large. The mind receives and captures information from the outside world through our senses. It stores all the information and processes it in its own way and helps us retrieve it back. We still don't know entirely the way it functions, which is very complex, and it is very difficult for us to fathom as to how it works. If you see in society, you will see many people leading their life completely dependent on situations and circumstances. When everything goes fine and as per their wish, they feel happy. On the other hand, if they are confronted with situations, or something goes wrong, they don't know what to do, how to handle it, and their mind completely snaps. Nature of the human mind. How does our mind function? What is its capacity? The multitude of things that it can perform is a subject which is very vast, and in spite of our best efforts to comprehend it will still be incomplete. But for our little understanding and small satisfaction, let us list a few important ways in which our mind works. A. The first quality of the mind is that it is itinerant. From the moment we wake up till we are overcome with sleep, it keeps hopping from one stimulus to another, one thought to another, or one scenario to another. There used to be a joke. India gave its civilization to Greece. Greece gave its civilization to Egypt. Egypt gave its civilization to Rome. Rome gave its civilization to Britain. And Britain gave its civilization back to India. We can become gifted, if only we can observe our own mind and how our thoughts shift from one to another. B. Sometimes we get connected thoughts that are centered around a situation or person. But more often than not, they may be disconnected thoughts, which may be totally different situations or people. The teacher asked the class to frame sentences using the word beans. My father grows beans in the backyard, said one student. My mother cooked beans for lunch, said another. Then little Johnny from the back bench said, we are all human beings. See, the mind oscillates between the happenings of the past and the dreams and desires of the future. It is extremely difficult to bring the attention to the present. This is where yoga and meditation trains the mind to focus on the present with its various techniques and breathing exercises. The lady was celebrating her second wedding anniversary. Her husband, who was out of station, sent her flowers at home. He told the florist to write happy anniversary, year number 2. Love on the card. The lady was thrilled with the flowers, but not so pleased about the card. It read happy anniversary. You're number 2. D. The mind has a tendency to cling on to negative things more than good things. It is a tendency for many, to list the wrongdoings of a person and to blame and complain than to appreciate and compliment a person. In this context, I would like to share the exercise adopted by teachers in schools with very young students to inculcate positive attitude and healthy relationship among peers. A child is made to tell 5 good qualities of another child, before making a complaint. People matter. Meaning matters. A good life is not a place at which you arrive, it's a lens through which you see and create your world. Jonathan Fields. Our mind is a window through which there is a constant interaction between the inner world and the outer world. Just as our thoughts, feelings, emotions are affected by people and situations from the outer world. Our thoughts and impressions, and our mindset has a powerful impact on the environment and people around us. Our 5 senses and the 6th sense called intuition send us signals which automatically trigger a response from the mind. The absence of even one of the sensory organs can alter the equilibrium. During a layover in a Kansas airport, I couldn't help but notice someone's name being called over the public address system, followed by the announcement. We have found your hearing aid. You may come and pick it up. F. Mind is an energy field. Our mind gathers all the experiences from the outer world and stores them in the form of impressions. We are able to recollect and recall information from the past, because they have been stored in the form of impressions. There was a beautiful garden with lots of fruits and flowers on top of a mound. It was very beautiful. The chief gardener would stand on top of this mound and look at the people in the garden and would call out to everybody saying that there were lots of fruits in the garden like mangoes, bananas, and papayas. He would invite them to have some. But when they went there, he would come down the hill and he would change his mind. He would ask them why they had come, and that they should go away. Then, he would go up the hill. Sitting there, he would again call out the same invitation, adding what he would do with all the fruit. That he was there to offer it to everybody. And, if they were happy, he would be happy, too. He would talk philosophically, but the moment he came down, it was back to square one. He would fight with the people. They thought he was little crazy. He lost all his credibility. Even he, himself, was surprised and didn't understand what was happening to him. A wise man in the town suggested that the people dig below the hill and see what was there. They dug the place up and they found the throne of a very well-known king called Vikramaditya. He was known for his generosity, righteousness, and his high spiritual life. When he died, they could not find anybody else fit enough to sit on his throne because it was such a powerful seat. So, people finally buried it under that mount, and it is said that the throne had the vibration of positivity and generosity and that was having an impact on the gardener when he went up the hill. Every place you are in, has a different impact on the mind. Even in your own house, you feel differently in different rooms. A place where there has been singing, chanting, and meditation has a different influence on the mind. So, the important factors that influence our mind are place, time, past impressions, company you keep, and food. G. The mind has a direct impact on the body. When we are happy, our muscles are supple. When we are angry, there are a lot of wrinkles on our face. When we are sad, our body shrinks and our throat chokes. Our mind has a direct impact on our bodily sensations, and the body also indicates the state of mind through breath. Slow and long breath indicates calmness and short breaths indicate anxiety and stress. Breath is the link between body and mind. All said and done, discussions about the nature of mind can go on endlessly because the mind is several times more powerful than the body. Just as a person interested in fitness visits the gym regularly, we who desire to control our mind, should harness its powers through mental exercises. There is an old Hindu legend that at one time all men on earth were gods, but man so sinned and abused the divine that Brahma, the god of all gods, decided that this special gift should be taken away from man and hid someplace where he would never find it again and abuse it. One god said, "Let's bury it deep in the earth." Brahma said, "No, man will dig down in the earth and find it." Another god said, "Let's put it in the deepest ocean." Brahma said, "No, man will learn to dive and find it there someday." A third god suggested, "Why don't we hide it in the highest mountain?" Brahma said, "No, man can climb the highest mountain." "I have a better idea. Let's hide it down in man himself. Man will never think to look there." Point: we all have the power to accomplish what we want to, if we can just stop looking elsewhere. Priya works as a manager in Canara Bank Staff Training College. 8 Ram's profile. Ram has had his upbringing and education in Chennai, a busy city also called the Detroit of India. As a child prodigy, he had aspirations to be the next Vishwanathan Anand, and won many inter-school championships in chess. During his scholastic years, his curiosity towards understanding the difference in people's behavior in response to the same stimulus, moved his focus to the field of psychology. As a travel freak, he has been to all the major cities in India and Europe and fell in love with the climate and cosmopolitan culture of the Garden City Bangalore. Also known as the Silicon Valley of India, he met his soulmate there. After convincing his family, he moved to Bangalore and settled there. He has specialized in IO psychology with research interests in the area of change management, TTM, and Industry 4.0. He is the first person to do psychology as a visually challenged person here in India. After a fruitful experience in consulting, he joined TCS in 2009. At TCS, he implemented the industry-famous TLP framework for the BPS organization, was part of the team that implemented the IPE framework for deciding the suitable compensation for the employees based on the job complexity. He was also part of the team that developed the SME, subject matter expert, career path in TCS BPS across all the delivery functions. He also designed and developed an attribute assessment scale for promotion of associates. He is certified in performance coaching and mentoring, BAE, Behavioral Events Interview, and ACDC, Assessment and Development Center, Evaluator. Nicknamed as Think Tank, he is better known as a psychologist than a HR in TCS for his empathy and compassion towards the employees. With his interests spanning from competency management to performance management, he is part of the TTM, Talent Transformation and Management, group. He is also known as an inspiring trainer within TCS for all the soft skill trainings that he takes with high passion and interest to various grades of employees during his leisure time in the organization. As an industry expert on management concepts, he is frequently invited by various schools to give expert talks and to conduct workshops on state-of-the-art management topics. Ramshan. 9 Project Management, in a nutshell. Over the years, owing to the dynamic nature of software development, a number of project management methodologies have come into existence. Each methodology has its own pros and cons, and the choice of a particular methodology depends on the scope of the project, the type of the project, and the software development team. Let us look at 2 of the most common methodologies. Waterfall and Agile. The waterfall methodology is the oldest project management methodology. This methodology is sequential and heavily requirement focused. We need to have a crystal clear idea before proceeding. There is no scope for corrections once the project is underway. We start by collecting and analyzing requirements, designing the solution, implementing the solution, and fixing issues if any. We can move to the next stage only if the previous stage is completed. Advantages. 1. It is easy to understand and use. 2. Demarcation of stages helps in organizing and dividing work. 3. Since all requirements are clearly documented, new resources can be easily moved into the project. Disadvantages. 1. If we find some errors, we will have to start the project from the beginning, which can lead to project failure. 2. If the requirements are not understood correctly or if they change, we will have to start the project from the beginning, thus making it a wrong choice for long and complex projects. The waterfall methodology is best suited for 1. Short and simple projects. 2. Projects with clear and fixed requirements. 3. Projects with changing resources which rely on documentation. Agile is the opposite of the waterfall model. It believes in rapidly developing working software as against comprehensive documentation. It is iterative with small incremental changes that respond to changing requirements. Advantages. 1. Since there are no fixed stages or focus on requirements, it gives us freedom to experiment and make incremental changes. 2. The risk of project failure is mitigated as stakeholders are involved at every step and we get early feedback. Disadvantages. 1. Resource management and scheduling become hard as we need to respond to changes as they occur. 2. The stakeholders should be willing and available to give early feedback, without which, this methodology will lead to project failure. This methodology is best suited for 1. When we do not have a fixed end, but have a general idea of a product. 2. Projects that need to accommodate quick changes. 3. Our collaboration and communication skills are better than planning. To be continued in the next edition. Balaji Vardarajan works as a software engineer for a startup called Zenios. 10. Making of Radio Udon shows. I have been working with Radio Udon as an RJ and content manager since its inception in February 2014. The beautiful ride has been wonderful and I host 3 shows. Currently I have 2 recorded weekly shows. These shows are Inspirational Wings Season 5 and Vocabulary Dose. The former is related to inspiration and motivation and its purpose is to spread positivity. The latter show is all about English vocabulary and the motive is to enhance the English vocabulary of listeners. Previously, I also had a show named Mystery of 26 and the show was based on English learning and basic concepts. I have always been passionate and enthusiastic about my shows and the station as a whole. All the shows on Radio Udon are informative, entertaining, spicy, fun, and relatable. Whether you are a fan of sports, entertainment, education, literature, music, debates, photographs, or food, you will find everything on the Udon menu. I know these shows might be intriguing you, right? Well, here I will give you an exclusive peek into the making of the shows. Live shows. Every show is made up of good content, fillers, and fun. Talking about live shows, an RJ has to make all the arrangements of the show prior to the time slot. Right from the arrangement of the studio on the computer system to mic checking, sound or software, everything is the responsibility of the host. The RJ uses studio with screen readers and for the live interactions virtual cable and Skype gets used. People can participate through Skype calling and drop messages therein. Similarly, listeners can also drop messages through WhatsApp. The RJ of the show records the live show so that it can be played for the next day repeat broadcast. In shows like debates and discussion, special attention is given to all the arrangements to ensure that the participants can easily join the talk and air their views. During the show, the listeners drop in their views and opinions about the theme or topic getting talked about. In the quiz and game shows too, much attention is given to all the arrangements spontaneously. Recorded show. In the case of recorded shows, the RJ has to record the show and do all the editing or modifications required. Software like Goldwave and Adobe Audition get used for editing. The show takes minimum 2 hours to get recorded and edited. Then the show gets merged and saved into a format for the servers. The time taken to record a show depends on the content or the theme. In the recorded shows too, the listeners can drop in their messages through Skype ID to Radio Udon. During the show, the RJ stays active on the Skype to respond to all the messages pouring in. In this way, if there is anybody who wants to interact with the host can do it right through Skype. In both live and recorded shows, a lot of importance is given to the recording quality and the quality of the mic used in the show. The purpose is always to provide the listeners with a cohesive and pleasant experience. An RJ spends no less than 2 to 3 hours in the preparation of the 1-hour show that gets aired for the listeners. The flow in the talk, the manner in which they would interact with the listeners, and fillers at the right time, everything demands absolute attention. Divya Sharma, a visually challenged girl with 75% vision impairment, she is a content writer at a web development, CO company, RJ at the online radio station. Radio Udon, a motivational speaker and guitarist. 11 Vishnu Sahasranamam, Yudhishthira, the eldest of the 5 Pandavas, was mentally depleted because of the war with the Kauravas and the misery of death and suffering that was created by the war in which he had been a major player. Bhishma, his dear grandfather, was lying on his deathbed. With his passing away, his irreplaceable wisdom, based on the experiences of his long life of virtue, righteousness, and devotion, was about to be lost to the world. Sage Vyasa and Sri Krishna advised Yudhishthira, who himself was an epitome of righteousness and virtue, to seek the advice of Bhishma on any and all aspects of life on which he had any doubts. Yudhishthira did as advised, and a series of dialogues ensued between the two, witnessed by Lord Krishna himself, and by other great sages including Vedavyasa. In one such session, Yudhishthira sought Bhishma's advice on the easiest and best means by which mankind can attain lasting happiness, peace of mind, and relief from all bondage and sorrows. This was the setting in which Sri Vishnu Sahasranama Stotram was imparted, with the welfare of future generations also in mind, by Bhishma to Yudhishthira, as part of the advice given by Bhishma in response to the above question. The following sloka in the prologue to Sri Vishnu Sahasranama Stotram identifies some important aspects pertaining to the composition of the stotram. Vishnu Namasa has Rajya Vedavyaso Mahamuna, Shandanustuptatha Devo Bhagvan Devki Sutta. Sri Vedavyasa is the Rishi of Sri Vishnu's 1000 names, i.e., the sage who strung together the 1000 names as they were revealed by Bhishma to Yudhishthira. Anishtup, 8 syllables per quarter, is its meter. Lord Krishna, the son of Devki, is the Lord being worshipped. In the introductory part of the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotram, Yudhishthira asks Bhishma 6 questions, related to how mankind can attain happiness. These are contained in 2 stanzas starting with Kimakam Devatam Lok in the Stotram. These questions are: 1. Who is the one supreme deity? 2. What is the highest goal of life? 3. By praising which deity's auspicious qualities, will human beings attain prosperity in this world as well as bliss in the next? 4. By meditating on which deity, will human beings attain prosperity in this world as well as bliss in the next? 5. By reciting which mantra will man be released from the bondage of the cycle of birth and death? 6 of the 3 means referred to above, recitation, praise or archana, and meditation, which is the best means for attaining the grace of the Supreme Deity based on your vast experience and knowledge? Bhishma's response to the above questions follows in the next 10 stanzas. In his considered opinion, a person tides over all the sorrows in this world by reciting with undiluted devotion the 1000 names of the Eternal Person, worshipping Him always with devotion, meditating upon Him, glorifying Him, saluting Him by prostrating before Him, and adoring Him, Dhyayan, Stuvan, Namasyamska, Yajamanas Tamavasiya. In summary, Yudhishthira asks Bhishma, given my despair and sorrowful state of mind, I want to expend the least effort and get the most benefit out of it, viz. Relief from my despair. Please tell me the means for this. And Bhishma's response is chant the 1,000 names of Lord Krishna with devotion. This does not require any effort other than the willingness to chant. This is the best way to get relief from all miseries, sorrows, and sins. How to perform? 1. First, learn the Vishnu Sahasranamam with proper pronunciation. Do this with the help of a learned pundit or at least some good YouTube channel. Mantras are sound energy technology. If you chant wrong, undesirable things can happen. 2. It is very important to use a proper mat or woolen asana. Get a good woolen asana, preferably yellow in color, from a tailor shop. Make sure it is sufficiently big. And after sitting, no part of your body is to touch the ground. If energy developed during chanting goes into the ground, earthing, then chanting loses its benefit. It is like earning money and keeping it on a windowsill. Most likely, it will be stolen or taken away. 3. You have to observe Sankalp and Vinayak if you want to fulfill any particular desire. 4. Do basic Pankopchar Puja of Lakshmi Narayan. Dhup, deep, pure cow ghee lamp. Navatya, Pushpa, rose, Svarnakampa, lotus, tulsi leaves, etc., that are available. Akshata, unbroken rice. Kesar also is very good. You may use photo, idol, yantra, or salagram, has certain strict rules. My advice would be to get a good photo of Lakshmi Narayan on Shashnag. Get it from Google and print it on photo quality laminated paper, then keep it in front of you. This increases your devotion and concentration. 5. After this, take Sankalp and Vinayak, and start the Sahasranamam, which may take anywhere from half an hour to 1.5 hours. So do not hurry. 6. The best time is morning before sunrise, like 5 a.m. or evening just during sunset. After midnight is alright as well. Additional pointers. 1. Keep a tulsi plant at home and take care of it properly. Light a cow ghee lamp in the evening with incense stick. 2. Wear a tulsi mala around your neck for at least 2 hours daily, but after bath. 3. Respect cows and do seva, help, for them in any way you can. Make a habit of feeding roti/chapati or grass to cow daily. The above 3 points will boost chances of success in deriving power from Vishnu Sahasranamam. 4. If you can't chant daily, then do it on Ekadashi and on Thursday and Friday. 5. Apply a mark/tilak of saffron/sandalwood on your forehead starting from center of eyebrows and upwards. You will feel peace, tranquility, and positivity even though you are rowing through the rough phases in life. In each and every step, he holds your hand, and your materialistic desires become almost nil. You become more and more sattvic. He becomes the first and foremost passion in your life, your guru, your lover, your everything. His name itself will bring tears to your eyes. Results are not instantaneous. It will be gained at a slow pace. One who reads this hymn every day with devotion and attention attains peace of mind, patience, prosperity, mental stability, memory, and reputation. People all over the world, especially in India, chant this Sahasranama in groups. No caste, creed, or class stops anyone from chanting it. This is not restricted to any upper caste, but is chanted harmoniously in groups. Women, men, children, youngsters, friends, relatives, or strangers, everyone joins unitedly in the chanting during festivals in India. It is observed that positive vibes are created by chantings of Vishnu Sahasranama. It calms the mind. In one of the famous Kannada magazines, I had read an article a few years ago about the effects of Vishnu Sahasranama chantings. The article mentioned that when thousands of people in Bhatkal taluk of Karnataka chanted the Vishnu Sahasranama, even the high tides of Arabian Sea calmed down. People who know to chant this and who have experienced the positive energy through this agree that regular chanting of these verses control hypertension. All in all, this wisdom of the ages continues to be a lighthouse in these troubled, modern times. The government of India may have banned the 1000 rupee note from circulation. But, let not the 1000 names of Vishnu be far from your lips. Ashok Mirwade was working for State Bank of Mysore as deputy manager. If you are interested, he is ready to teach the 108 slokas. He can be contacted on 9880130392. His chanting on YouTube is available at https://www.youtube.com/channel/UCPQLC3XZWWGLDWS4ECUY Law, 12 Kalakumalai Trekking. If God could grant me a wish, I would like to travel 365 days, ha ha ha. My elder brothers accompany me as an escort wherever I travel. Recently, I had gone trekking along with the Alpha Trekkers group. Our journey started on Friday night, September 29, 2018, from Bangalore. We reached Shurianali next day at 9 a.m. Our real journey began from Shurianali. Shurianali to Kalakumalai is hardly 9 kms. It took almost an hour to cover that distance. To be honest, I have never traveled in such a narrow road. We all got a nice body massage. Just imagine the grinder ride in Wanderla, it is somewhat similar to that. People have seen Shiva's Thundava dance in auditoriums. I experienced such a Thundava dance on the road. Many times, the luggage that were securely tied to the rooftops of jeeps would come tumbling down. Hats off to those skillful jeep drivers who have to navigate those treacherous roads and do this day in and day out. The scenery, however, is breathtaking. One can feel the moist touch of the mist. Find Tamil Nadu on one side and Kerala on the other. Finally, we reached our camp at 10:30. After freshening up and breakfast, we all gathered together. Our team leader, Sharath Raj, had instructions for us. We were 40 members in total and were divided into 3 groups. Each team was allocated a guide. Our expedition started at 12 p.m. Initially, I climbed with full of josh. Later, my body started to drag me back. Every 10 minutes, I would rest a while. I used to have some water and dry fruits to rejuvenate myself. Whenever I felt demotivated, my conscience would remind me of the purpose for which I came here, the time and money spent for it. Later, Anusha and Dr. Rashmi Rani joined me. Rashmi Rani, to motivate me, would say, "The worst trekkers are the best trekkers because they will enjoy the nature better than others." In fact, Anusha and I would run whenever we reached flat land. Our guide Mr. Mahesh also kept motivating us. We reached our destination at 2:30 p.m. It was such a wonderful experience. I forgot all my tiredness. The whole mountain was full of blue. Our co-trekkers explained the beauty of the nature surrounding us. Anusha said it looks like we are inside the clouds. I sat aside and did pranayama, also taking in the pure air and salubrious climate. The gentle breeze rejuvenated us with its magic. Since I have light perception, I could see how the surroundings were. The whole mountain was like a small pumpkin and the sky was like a vessel. We spent time together taking snaps and talking excitedly. In expeditions, climbing up is hard, climbing down is harder. I did not feel it was that hard, but the real challenge was to be cautious in keeping the next step. The path was extremely steep. By mistake, if anyone slipped down, it was very difficult to come up. The landscape was full of grass, plants, trees, and bushes. We had to push them aside to cross the path. Apart from that, there were the deadly leeches. Everybody used to scream a lot due to the fear of leeches. Suhas was attacked by one of the tiger leeches. He never knew that until he removed his shoes. His ankle was swollen. The organizer gave him first aid. Hence, we were advised to check our legs often, and to not stand for a long time at one place, or be near a water body. We should carry salt or body deodorant. Once applied, the leech will fall down. If we remove by hand, we may get pain and blood will ooze out. Normally, once the leeches drink the required blood, it will fall down. Thankfully, so far, I have been free from leeches. My sincere gratitude to Mayank and my elder brother who were guiding me. With the stick in my hand I could judge the distance where I have to keep my leg. On the way, we were drenched by rain and we reached our camp at 6 o'clock. At night, we all gathered for a bonfire. It was terribly cold and I was hoping that I could get my body warm. Unfortunately, rain did not cooperate with us. Everybody ran away into the dining hall, which was also open space. We waited for some time hoping rain would stop. We tried the bonfire again. I think rain was angry with us. The whole night it did not stop. A few of them did dance till 11 o'clock. They asked me to join as well. But my body did not support me. I was literally shivering because of not wearing my jacket. I had left the warm jacket in the tent. I remembered our soldiers who face adverse weather conditions constantly. I pray to God to give them long life and very good health. After dinner, my brother dropped me to my tent where Vidya and I stayed together. The tents are made of silken material. We can carry them wherever we go. Normally, tents are put at elevated places. The goal is to not be affected from rain, and water should not enter inside the tent. Once we enter into the tent, we can close it with a zip. To sleep, we used a mattress and sleeping bag. Vidya and I was speaking till 1 o'clock. In the middle of the night, I thought to check out how outside was and put out my right hand. The tent was full of water. At that time, I really missed my home. Whenever it rains at home, I close the windows and go to sleep. Here in Kalakamalai, I felt like having snow bath instead of sun bath, ha ha ha. Early morning, we woke up at 4:30. Thank God we had washrooms there. We left Kalakamalai at 6:30 a.m. We could not go to Araviculam National Park. At this place the Neelakaranji flower blooms once every 12 years. All of us were very eager to see that flower. But due to some transport permit issue, we could not go there. A few flowers were there when we were climbing the Garuda trail. Fortunately, I got an opportunity to touch the flower. Satya Prakash sir gave me the flower, and he said because of this flower, we have come all the way. Finally, after a lot of dilly-dallying, we decided to head back to Bangalore instead of waiting or fighting with the authorities. On the way, we stopped at Velangur where the Kaveri River flows. We spent some time there. All had become friendly by now and were pulling each other's legs. During the travel, we kept ourselves busy playing Antakshari, dumb charades, and solving puzzles. We reached Bangalore at 12:30 a.m. We carried wonderful memories for a lifetime. Ashaji works for SBI in Bangalore. 13 Recipe Corner, Green Chili Chutney. A friend of mine, Svati, recently got married and shifted to Bangalore. As students in college, we never thought one day we will be sitting at her table discussing recipes and mother-in-laws. As I am a Gujarati married to a Malayali, the cuisine intrigues me, and I am always trying to understand what the ingredients are. I hit the jackpot when she told me, her mum sent her their family recipe book, as she is also not the best in the kitchen like me. Such a lovely thing to do. Everyone should have a recipe book, a true heirloom. As soon as I can, I am going to badger my mum to share some with me. Here is one simple and quick one from my friend Svati's. Green chili chutney. Preparation and cooking time. 10 minutes. Serves. 4. Ingredients. 10 green chilies finely chopped. 2 tablespoons coconut oil. 1 pinch mustard seeds. Salt to taste. Method. 1. Heat the oil, and add the mustard seeds, and let it crackle. 2. Add the finely chopped chilies, sauté till the raw chili smell goes. 3. Add salt according to taste. This works great with dosas, and you can store in the refrigerator for weeks. By Rajvi Mehta, textile designer. 14. To be a winner. I am sure you have heard the saying, never judge a book by its cover. This experience is something in those lines and a little more. My better half works at a Montessori and they have their annual carnival, where the kids put up a show and the teachers put up stalls filled with fun games and eatables. I was invited to attend this carnival. At first I thought, what good would a blind man at the carnival do? It would be extremely boring to attend. While the child in me said, there is going to be cotton candy, popcorn, and loads of junk food for me to explore. I called up an old friend and asked him if he would like to join me at the carnival. After tempting him about the hot teachers at the Montessori, he said yes. Got to give it, some men are still primitive with primitive needs. We show up at the carnival and are greeted at the gate for our passes. After the security checks we make our way to the ticket/coupon counter, where we buy enough tickets/coupons to the games and food to last us for the evening. We could buy more later if we wanted to indulge further. I forget that I am blind at times. Carnivals are noisy. Loud music, people chattering, kids running around with open cola glasses, a blind man's nightmare. The first counter has an exciting game where we are to knock down a pyramid of bottles using a rubber ball from a distance, and the treat is 2 more coupons of a value to other games at the carnival. We are standing in a queue and I am behaving like an impatient child, totally embarrassing my friend who volunteered to come to the carnival. Meanwhile, over the noise I had to hear this clearly from grown-up people behind me at the queue. What is that blind guy thinking? He can't see, how is he going to take aim and hit those bottles? What if he misses and hurts someone? Now I heard it all, and so did my friend. I instructed my friend to be patient and don't make any remarks on what they just said. It was my turn at the game. My friend positioned me at the point and gave me vague instructions on how high the bottles were placed and at what distance and the kind of force I should use. Wham! I threw the ball at the pyramid of bottles, hoping to embarrass myself by missing all the bottles and knocking someone out cold. But there is a loud cheer and applause. I was confused and my friend told me that you knocked out all the bottles on the first try, you have another 2 tries. That is when I sat on the king's throne and missed all the bottles on the 2 tries, overconfident. Anyhow, we won our coupons. I had fun aiming at imaginary bottles which I actually hit, and I also gave a piece of my mind to those who commented earlier. My words: to be a winner, you must first make an attempt. Although I couldn't see the expressions on their face, I am sure I must have driven the message home. We did enjoy the rest of the evening, indulging in playing so many other games and eating all kind of foods and snacks. I also shook a leg with the kids on the chicken song. It was absolutely a fun experience. I did miss seeing the lights and the decorations and a few important people who reached out to me and introduced themselves to me. Friends and fellow readers, this is what I have learned. Don't let others discourage you from doing something if you want to do it, unless it's a crime or something you will regret later. Believe in yourself. You are all you got at the end of the day, and you are all you are, perfect with all your imperfections. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard ya hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Mujtaba Merchant. A smart, witty individual, he always gives the world a peek into the life of a person with vision impairment with a pinch of salt. When he is not at work at TCS in Bangalore, he is out there spreading the laughs even during the more serious moments.